Stop hinging your swings and start squatting your swings. I know that many of you have heard the cue, the swing is not a squat, it's a hinge. And that's true in the beginning, but if you really start getting into the swings and perfecting your technique, there is absolutely a squat in the hole. And I wanted to cover this because it is the key to having a very, very powerful, explosive, and safe swing. So what we see a lot when someone starts to swing is they end up getting a little bit too front squatty or knee squatty. So the swing kind of looks, like this, where somebody's here and they're just sort of squatting like this. The key movement there is that the knees are going forward. It represents more like a front squat. But when you want to get really, really dialed in with your technique and have a safe and explosive swing, you absolutely want to make sure that you're squatting in the hole. But when you say squatting to somebody, they oftentimes think vertical squatting, hence the cue, hinge, don't squat. So what that looks like is now you have the bell here and someone's hinging down. There's very little knee movement forward so that they're able to better load their hips. Early on, that's great. What that ends up doing, though, is it's going to make the drive out of the hole less explosive because you're not loading your hips optimally. And it's going to expose your back to more bending torque, right? So when the bell's out here, it's bending you down like this instead of loading it through axial compression, which is kind of like squishing straight down. And that's where the squat comes in. So when you see a lot of people doing just a pure hinge, which way back in the day, the gurus of the kettlebell community were teaching, no forward knee movement, because they're trying to find a way to load the hips as much as possible. They've since softened that, and now they're allowing a little bit of knee movement forward. What I mean by knee movement forward is like, maybe over the midfoot or over the shoelaces, not past the toes. But the hinge, what it looks like if someone's doing sort of like a pure hinge, and I just saw, a famous fitness guru doing a hinge just like this the other day, hence the video. It looks a lot like this. They're just here, and they're just sort of hinging like this, right? Now, when you do that, you're absolutely loading the hips more, and by preventing or blocking excessive forward movement of the knee, you're, like I said, you're loading the hips better and you're not using the quads quite as much. But when you start perfecting your technique and you want to have that really crisp drive out of the hole, you want to have a really, really good float phase, and maybe you want to be moving heavier kettlebells, you need to start thinking about the bottom not as a hinge but as a squat. And here's what this looks like. When you're hinging down here, the bell's coming down, I'm going to hinge forward, and then the bottom here, the bell kind of drifts away from you, or the bell, you might even see it sort of like move away from in line with your arms. You come through here, the bell comes up. Now, because your arms aren't necessarily as tight against your side, that's going to expose your body to a bending torque, right? So I'm down here, the bell's pulling me like this, and then I have to kind of hinge out of the hole. Now, everyone knows that you have to drive out of the hole, but if you want a really good drive out of the hole, we want to squat into the hole to better load the legs for a better drive phase. So this is what it looks like. You're here now, we just completed the drive phase, we got a nice float phase. As the bell starts to drop in that descent phase, then you're going to go into the hinge phase. You want the bell to drop pretty low because a late hinge is a really important quality for a good swing. And then as the bell gets below your belly button into that waist level, you're going to start to hinge forward. As you hinge forward, though, you're not going to continue to hinge into the hole. What you're going to do is you're going to hinge forward, and then you're going to squat into the hole, okay? And what's going to happen is the bell and the butt are going to go down and back. Now, if you notice here, my knees traveled forwards a little bit, but it wasn't like that front squat movement that we showed you in the beginning. So it's not here and then do this. That's the bad technical aspect that we try to get away from when someone's given the cue, the swing is a hinge, not a squat. What we want to do is think of it as like a low bar back squat or even a box squat where your butt is going down and back. So you want to think of it as the bell and the butt are going down and back. Now when I'm in the hole here, the knee goes forward a little bit. I don't lose my full foot contact, but now my legs are loaded and my spine is protected. So from here, it's very easy to get a super powerful and crisp drive out of the hole to get that nice float phase that we're all looking for. Okay, so I'll show you with the actual bell what it looks like when you're hinging out of the hole and what it looks like when you're squatting out of the hole, right? So, or hinging into the hole or squatting into the hole, however you want to think about it. I'll do 5 reps with just a hinge, and I want you to kind of pay attention to the path of the bell, maybe what's happening with the bell when I'm in the bottom there. Is it flipping up or is it staying in line with my arms? And also how explosive the drive is out of the hole. So if we're here, we'll line up, and again, I'm going to hinge out of the hole. A little bit of knee forward movement, but I'm just hinging, right? So out of the hole, even though I'm thinking drive my legs, the vast majority of the movement is hip extension, sort of lean back. That again is going to perpetuate that extension, compression, stabilizing strategy you hear me talk about so much. And in the hole, I'm going to subject my spine to more flexion torque. We don't like that, right? If you're going to pick up a heavy piece of furniture, you're not going to do this, you're going to do this. That's what the squat motion does for you in the swing. So now I'm going to do 5 swings where I'm thinking squat in the hole instead of hinge in the hole, okay? So we're going to be here just like this, drive. I'm going bell back, butt back. And you can see how much more ballistically I'm able to drive out of the hole. I'm not trying to drive out of the hole any harder. I'm just better loading my legs so it's easier to be very, very explosive out of the hole. So when you go back and you start working your swings, particularly if you're moving heavy bells, try thinking of the hole as a squat and not a hinge, okay? The main cue here, the reason that we say early on in your swing journey that the swing is a hinge, not a squat, has everything to do with the type of squat they're doing. We don't want a front squatty squat, right, where you're here. We want to think bell back, butt back. You're going down and back here so you can get a super powerful drive in a way that protects your spine. So give that a try, comment below, see if we can improve that swing for you.